Uh, One other thing that probably needs to be addressed is uh, the BCA and the amino acid. Now, you should understand that the body does not differentiate between a BCA and it needs its own complete profile of amino acids. So that's where I would rate an amino acid way higher than just a BCAA because it's more complete protein. So that's one thing. And as I said, that amino acid, or even if you're drinking BCAA, I would suggest you try and finish it in one go, intra workout or before the workout or after the workout, rather than sipping through the workout for its benefits. Main benefit of vitamin C is means अगर आपको इम्यून सिस्टम के लिए विटामिन सी लेना है तो आई वुड सजेस्ट यू गो फॉर अ प्योर एस्कॉर्बिक एसिड as a source rather than amla extract or any other extract. The reason being, even आपके जो सेल्स है उसमें भी एस्कॉर्बिक एसिड लेवल्स है. नाउ व्हेनेवर लेट्स टॉक अबाउट बिकॉज अभी जो माहौल चल रहा है ऑफ द वायरस एंड द पेंडेमिक एंड ऑल दोज थिंग्स. नाउ अंडरस्टैंड दैट जब भी कोई पैथोजन मतलब कोई भी जो वायरस या एनी अदर फॉरेन थिंग्स enter and start harming the body, or the body takes it as something which is not beneficial, the first penetration of that virus happens while decreasing your ascorbic acid in your cellular level. Now ascorbic acid is like ammunition. It's like an army. Now, ascorbic acid also helps increase WBCs. Not many people know that. Whenever, as I said, a pathogen enters or a virus enters, it starts depreciating. That's how it enters the cellular and multiplies. If you give enough ammunition in the form of ascorbic acid, it will allow आपकी body fight कर सकेगी वो virus और वो pathogen. It is as simple as that. And you limiting ascorbic acid or vitamin C because you're thinking it's just a vitamin, it's not the best information I think that has come to you. So try and increase your ascorbic acid. Even जब भी हम बीमार गिरते हैं या सर्दी जुकाम होता है, depending upon how severe आपका situation है, you think about the only downside, though, if you consider that as a downside, is loose motions. So you will see that on a healthy state, if I take 5 grams of ascorbic acid, I might immediately go to the loo because my body has its own, means it has its stores. Right now it doesn't need. Same situation, if you're down with a fever, you try and have a 10 gram just to try. You will see that everything is getting absorbed. And probably the best thing to do while you are sick is to give smaller doses of amino acid every couple of hours or every 3-4 hours for the body to consume.
Vitamin C is a water soluble vitamin.
Exactly.
You can't really overdose much on it because unlike a fat soluble vitamin, it doesn't build up in the body. So you have to keep supplementing it. So you can't say that I took vitamin C today, so now for a week or 10 days I'm good. Right. You can do that with vitamin D, which is fat soluble, the other fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E and K. But otherwise, vitamin C is a water soluble vitamin. So you have to keep taking it to keep the level high.
Yes, and probably everyone right now as a must should be taking D3, zinc and vitamin C ascorbic acid.
So Kaivan, off the question, where do you think bodybuilding is going? Do you think this trend of getting bigger and bigger and larger and professional shows is the way that we need to be going? People like Arnold say that, they're not aesthetic anymore and they are kind of out of shape and they have huge distended guts because the amount of insulin and growth hormone they are putting in.
So let's talk about the crowd. Usually, let's take Olympia or even a Sheru Classic or an Arnold Classic. The majority of the crowd buys the ticket for the final show. It's as much as you would like to believe that the classic is getting the crowd to the Olympia, it's not. The majority of the people, the full audience that you will see will be in the higher category show. So people love seeing freaks.
No, we love seeing the mass monsters.
Exactly,
Don't get me wrong. But would we want our children to take growth hormone or insulin and have all the associated detrimental effects on your health? We love bodybuilding as a sport, and we want everyone to take it up. We want everyone to go to the gym and be fit. But at the same time, as a medical professional, I can't in good conscience tell people that, you can look like this by just going to the gym, because you can't. There's a certain amount of exogenous stuff that you have to pump into your body, which over time has all kinds of other side effects. So I personally feel that, there has to be a stop to it. Because today you have people on stage at 280 pounds at 2% body fat. And 10 years down the line, they'll be at 320. So where's the limit? Eventually, they look so blocky, unaesthetic. I prefer to look at Frank Zane from 1980 rather than some of these guys today.
Very true. Now let's talk about whether someone should take it or not. Now the very fact that the pharma industry has made GH and it's legally available on a prescription is for its use. So there is a very thin line which usually bodybuilders cross between a use and an abuse. So you could use something in your benefit, and GH is something, again, this is just for entertainment purpose and I'm not prescribing people to have GH, but usually if you study GH and its downward trend, it happens post 23, 24. Now the very fact that at between the age of 12 to 20, most of the people who are unhealthy in their 30s, 40s were relatively fitter, goes more towards their own secretion of GH. The very fact that a person grows in height, person grows in musculature is because of the GH. Another very important component or the benefit of GH is towards the neurotransmitting effect. Means you feel good. Now there's a feel good hormone. It's also probably something which keeps the fat percent in check. Now all these benefits, bodybuilders take it to another level, completely another level. Now the distended gut that you were talking about does not really come from the insulin, but it comes from the loads of food that they eat.
Systematic overeating.
Yeah. So your intestines or even just your stomach, if you take for instance, has a capacity to hold. When you start loading, it somewhere loses its elasticity and pushes the muscle up outwards while creating that illusion that someone has got a distended gut. So it's not more got to do with the insulin, but it's got more to do with the amount of food that these people eat.
Also, there's a trend where bodybuilders don't really do much cardio, which I think is very disturbing, because eventually we are living because our heart is beating. So don't you think that all bodybuilders should do more cardiovascular activity so that their heart gets exercised?
100% yes. So most of the people in the past 5 years, they have suddenly started doing cardio, slow form of cardio. But the very fact that you're moving around with a 250 pound on supposedly supposed to be a 200 pound individual creates a load on the heart. So whether you do cardio, yes, it does help, but the very fact that someone moves around with 250 plus weight, leads to a certain amount of stress on the heart. Now even if you take an animal, a larger dog dies faster than a smaller dog. It's just the opposite amount of weight that creates a stress on the cardiovascular system. So the larger you are, the more the stress on the cardiovascular system. So that's where probably we're seeing a lot of people passing away in their young age, post retirement. Means there are so many bodybuilders who pass away between 40 and 50 is because of usually the opposite amount of weight that they carry. even if it's musculature, it's still stress on the heart.
Why is there Lee? He never did squats. Do you think squats are necessary to build large legs?
No.
I don't think so either. I think people squat and eventually you'll destroy your L5, S1 and your knees given enough time, because you'll get stronger and stronger, especially if you take steroids and other stuff. Eventually you'll be squatting so much that your knees and lower back will pack up.
You can only hypertrophy a muscle. You can't hypertrophy a cartilage or a ligament.
So, you know, when I used to train in the gym and the small trainers young guys used to be pushing their clients more. I used to tell them that, see guys, there's one mantra. Muscle heals, ligament never heals, and tendon never heals.
Yeah.
So, and they used to laugh at me and all, but now they know it's true.
But then at the same time, Doc, doesn't it make sense that you have to get stronger at the gym? There are two types of goals when you go in a gym.
Yeah.
Either you want to become stronger or either you want to become aesthetic. For aesthetic reasons, it is not necessary to do certain compound movements. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, यही करेगा तो ही body बनेगा.
Absolutely.
ये सब तो नहीं है, right?
Yeah.
I understand very clearly, isn't it right? And there are many bodybuilders also. Maximum bodybuilders now, they openly say, I don't do squat. Maximum bodybuilder openly say, I don't lift heavy weights.
If you see, even
They are very
Jay
clear about their
Cutler,
goals.
for most part of his competitive career, he hardly took any weight on the squats.
That's why he had a competitive. That is why he had a competitive career.
Yeah. And
so, you know, interestingly, I saw a very famous colleague of mine on Facebook, and just now he had a slip disc when he was squatting, and that reminded me when I had my slip disc about 3 years ago. So I went to the gym, I did a light warm up, I got under 180, and right at the bottom of the rep, I heard a tuck sound, exactly like he described, and some pain. And at that point, you don't realize what's happened. But as a doctor, I knew what had happened instantly. And after 2 or 3 months, I hoped it would go away. It just didn't. I did a MRI and figured out that it was a slip disc. And I had a great friend who is a famous spine surgeon, Abhay Nene. So I went to meet him in the night. I said, Abhay, what do I do? So he said, see, Cyrus, there's nothing you can do now except build up the muscles around it. So I bought a book by a very famous guy called Stuart McGill. And I started doing the McGill 3 exercises. Yeah. And so Stuart is a master at repairing or generating muscular strength around the spine that supports the spine. So now I can do everything all over again. But I still wouldn't squat again because the amount of axial compression that it causes is not worth it. So if you are a power lifter and your job is to move an X amount of weight in a squat and a deadlift, I would do it. But as a bodybuilder or a fitness enthusiast is what I describe myself as today, I won't squat or deadlift. It's of no point.
The entire tagline that usually goes with training, go hard or go home, is a fallacy. Actually, it has to be go smart or go home. You know, unless you're not smart in your training, you are bound over a period of time to land up in some form of injury. Usually people have this one mindset, usually even the bodybuilders, which they shouldn't be, is to go in, create PRs after PRs after PRs after PRs after PRs. Every single, it just doesn't work that. Even if you track the training or the training protocols of the weightlifters or the power lifters, they never do that. They probably most of the time train in their 3 rep maxes, 4 rep maxes, and vary once in a month. They'll have that 1 week that they'll scale up. So we don't have this. There's not much information with people that how to phase their training. You know, they usually just go in with that mentality that I need to hit hard. So more than the weight, people should be focused on the pump if they want to actually accelerate with bodybuilding, because that's where maximum amount of blood flow happens.